All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the BMS Mastery Series, our Ask Me Anything here that we do weekly. Today, we're going to be focused on the procurement module. But before we get too far into that, obviously, we want to make sure that you're dropping any questions that you have in our question pod. My name is Neil Perkins. I'm a software training consultant here at ConnectWise. I'm based out of our Tampa office. Definitely been on the BMS side, and previous to education, I spent the last 8 years over on the consulting team. With me today, I've got my colleague here, Mike Heaton. If you want to go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Morning. I have been here at ConnectWise for 10 years. I was on the consulting team with Neil prior, and I've been a partner success manager before I joined ConnectWise. I worked at an accounting firm, and I'm now considered a PSA SME for the partner success team.
Awesome. So we do also have a couple helpers in the background here today. We've got Lynette helping us moderate. And we do have over here from the project team, Prabhu Swami is helping us out from the procurement side of things. So, I mean, they'll definitely be chiming in here and there when they can kind of help with some of those questions. Hopefully people are starting to get in there. As we dig in, we did want kind of the ball rolling with a little bit of a question for everybody. How can I make sure a PO and a ticket are associated to each other?
So we do see this quite a bit. And like the simple solution to it, it'll always start with a ticket, sales order, project. If you start here, that's where demand starts. That will tie everything back and forth together.
Okay.
If you create the purchase order and then want to go put a ticket on it, those two are never going to be tied together. So always start with the service ticket and then go into purchasing and create that purchase order from there.
Yeah, excellent. I know I've seen sometimes that information like that will pull way down the line when you pick and ship it, but obviously before that, yeah, they really don't see that each other exists. Yeah, excellent.
So the first question we've had come in is, how do I create a reoccurring monthly purchase order?
I can grab this one and you can grab this one. The short answer on this one is you kind of can't truly create a recurring monthly purchase order. The closest thing we can do, assuming you're talking about something like licensing or something along those lines where you do actually have to order it each month, you can put either an inventory or a non-inventory part on an agreement as an addition. When you do that, you do get access to an additional checkbox. I think it's called purchase item or something like that. When you check that, anytime you invoice that agreement, it does create a purchasing demand in that purchasing screen. It's not the same as a recurring PO, but it does allow you to generate a purchase order each month, each quarter, however often that you invoice that particular agreement.
Well, I'd agree 100%. Like you said, it's not recurring, but the agreement is recurring. So if you have that monthly recurring agreement, it's just going to create that purchase demand every single month as soon as that invoice is created.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I've run into is making sure that you invoice first.
So our next question wants to expand a little, I think, on that PO and ticket being associated. So what if you start with a ticket, make a sales order, but it has agreement products? How do we associate that with a PO? For example, Microsoft 365 products.
It's a combination of both answers. So if you set up this Microsoft licenses as a non-inventory product, when you invoice the agreement, it's going to create that each time. So there won't be a sales order or a ticket each month, but the agreement is going to be where everything originates. So hopefully that helps out too.
And from the original purchase, you could do a sales order for it there for that like original acquisition of the licenses. And then depending on how you set up the agreement, it could recur.
Okay. We have a client that wants to have an open PO so we don't have to quote every item requested. Items change. Can this be done?
Hmm. Want to say CPQ has a feature kind of like this. I'm not as familiar with every feature on the CPQ side, but I do believe they have something that effectively lets you kind of have an open quote to put orders in. Does that sound right?
I believe there is quote demands, but I haven't dug into that terribly much myself either.
Okay.
But that is something I can do some research while we continue on.
Yeah. To me, this sounds more like customer has an open purchase order if they just want to add in on an app to it, which is going to be a little bit different because our purchase orders that we're tracking are going to be for items that we're actually ordering. So if we're talking about a purchase order from a client's point of view, we could set up a ticket, just add products to it and so on and track it that way. But there's not really going to be a way to keep it an ongoing purchase order inside of PSA procurement.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always add more and more to it. So, for instance, I could go away that I add a product to a ticket, and I go through the purchasing demand, and I say add to an existing PO. I mean, I just never close that PO, but there's no, but that's not going to be tied necessarily to the customer PO. So we need to clarify that.
And you run into the same issue with the POs are tied to a specific vendor as well. So I mean, if you it's difficult to have just a blanket open PO for any one person.
Yeah, and it looks like even quote demand still wants you to have something, either the service ticket or the opportunity, or it needs to have been coming from somewhere in PSA already.
Okay.
So that is not going to solve the requested issue, I don't think.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, at some point you're kind of running more into almost like an e-commerce system, and that's going to be a separate integration entirely.
So we have a follow-up to that question about the Microsoft 365 products, a couple pieces to this. So Alexandra is wondering if Office 365 is better set up as an agreement product or a non-inventory product, because she's asked and has gotten a couple of different answers, which is pretty typical, right? You know, there's so many different things we can do in PSA. But then her follow-up to that is trying to set up the PSA integration with TD SYNNEX, and was wondering on best class to set when doing this.
So, in my opinion, it's going to depend. If you have to have a purchase order every single month, which usually is not the case, but if you do, then you need it to be non-inventory or inventory. I would reference this product as an ingredient class because you're going to go and quote it, convert that quote into the opportunity, convert the opportunity into the agreement, and you're not going to have to do a purchase order every single month. And like I said, I rarely see where someone has to do a purchase order. So I would track this as an agreement class product. One more addition to that. If I go out and I actually purposely have additional Microsoft licenses that I have not applied to anyone yet, so I've got the license I'm setting up, that might be a reason to keep those as as an inventory product. But I still think I would go to the agreement class. So yeah, you probably heard different answers. Depends on who you're talking to, but from my perspective, it makes more sense for it to be an agreement class product.
That makes perfect sense to me. I really wouldn't have probably changed anything. Like you said, if they truly need that purchase order, it would potentially make sense that we would have them created as inventory or non-inventory. But without that, I think doing it as an agreement class is really going to be their best bet.
And I think that differential is kind of why she's probably received different answers on those, because depending on which side you're coming from.
Makes sense.
One more follow-up from her. She says that was a follow-up question about one-offs that can't be attached to a PO. So I'm thinking she's just upset that you can't do a hybrid of something of that there.
Yeah, and that may be something for a product team to look at. But I think from my experience and over the past 10 years of consulting with ConnectWise and even going back to inventory management within the accounting world, you don't want a hybrid. You want to make sure that you have your process set up. And as soon as you start introducing different avenues to go, it's going to create confusion, which is going to become less efficiency, more time resources, and it's going to be too costly.
Oh, that's really good insight there.
So we have another question here. We use a separate program that creates a bill of materials for a project. Is there a way to import the products into that project?
I mean, it is as in you are not entering those specifically into PSA in any way, specifically looking to do it.
That is the question. So I'm wondering if that program that they're using to create that bill of materials, if that integrates with PSA at all.
Yeah, because I mean, if it doesn't, there's not really a way to pull those products in. You're just going to have to enter them. I know our standard process ideally was they would be entered on an opportunity at some point, and that can move over.
Yeah.
But without that, you're going to have to key them in by hand. There's not really just a product import directly into a project.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it looks like Robert's saying that sometimes it can be 150 products. So yeah, a little overwhelming to bring in, but yeah, if it's not on the quote or in that PSA product catalog, I don't see how we can do it.
Only way would be to write directly to our open APIs.
Yeah, because even CPQ, that's designed to like import a quote, but not necessarily. It's not necessarily just to pull in a bill of materials, unfortunately. Like at some point, it would need to have been quoted. If it was quoted through CPQ first as part of that, then yes.
And that would go with many of the other integrations that we have from a quoting tool perspective.
And from what I can see there, Robert, yes, it would need to match what's in the product catalog if it's going to do an import.
For the product catalog, how can I input a serial number if that serial number has already been in ConnectWise? Example, I have a serial number that I received, but the customer wanted to return that serial number. I had to add it to inventory through an adjustment, but ConnectWise would not allow me to add it in because it already existed on the PO I received it on originally.
So that sounds like a bug to me.
Yeah, because it should let you select the serial number when you're doing a return like that.
So as long as when you sold the product originally and you pick the correct serial number, if you go in and do an adjustment to add it back, you should be able to put that serial number back in because it was already taken out. So we probably need to see that. And if you are seeing that behavior, I would suggest reaching out to our support team to have them take a look at that and review.
Okay, the PO bundles like items onto one line item. This causes us to have to break them out once the invoices are received. Is there any plan to allow us not to have like items bundled?
I don't know if there's any plan to split them. I mean, I know that like if you do partial receipts, it does splits and things like that. I feel like if they're on separate, well, no, because on the PO it does combine everything, even if I pull them together from separate lines on purchasing demand. I'm not sure if it does that. I guess my follow-up question for Allison here would be, are you creating all these POs from the purchasing screen, or are you going to PO creating new and just jumping a bunch of items on there?
Right.
Well, I guess my other question would be is why are we wanting separate invoice? Why are we wanting to break it out on the invoice? I guess that's a question kind of maybe Mike can help me address if there's something from the finance perspective that you'd want to have the invoice separated.
Well, I mean, they can be ordered for different clients as part of it.
Right.
Well, yeah, but you're still going to then invoice from whatever generated that demand, whether it's the sales order or the service ticket or the project.
Yeah, and we may need to deeper dive into this one. Yeah, if the question is, I've got a line item in my quote for 15 laptops, and that comes over into my project as 15 laptops. I have to invoice 15 laptops at one point. If you need to break those out, I think the bundling part's confusing things with bundle and class part and so on. But there is a way around that. So it involves this using the sales order. And I'm pretty sure this is all in documentation, but you go into the sales order and have your settings set so that you can only invoice it after it's been shipped. And once you ship it, you can move those line items over into the project. Then you can invoice the project for the 5 laptops versus the 15. So I don't know if that's the direction you were going, but that would be the only way that you can currently do that. And I know that is on the current roadmap, or at least on the top 10 list.
Just talking about the vendor bill.
Oh,
Yeah. So the full update from Allison is we have one SO that we purchased, but when it's broken out, the product gets bundled onto a purchase order. Our vendor invoices them separately as they were quoted, so we have to receive, unreceive to break them out when the invoice is received. So this specifically is referring to them paying the vendor, not them invoicing their clients. And the receive, unreceive, unfortunately, is kind of what I would have expected, sadly. I don't know if there's a better way to do that currently. That's kind of what I was doing in consulting.
yeah. I mean, I think I'd need to actually see it.
Gotcha.
Because again, if, for instance, you're using QuickBooks and I receive 5, my vendor invoices me for 5, they're not bundled anymore.
Right.
And split up. And I would push that item receipt over to QuickBooks. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, bill received, and that I'm going to send those out, take it out of my accounts payable. Also, I would say there is a way, but we probably need to discuss that a little bit more. And Alice, if you'd like to, feel free to reach out to partner success at ConnectWise.com. I'll reference this and my name, Michael Heaton, in there, and it'll get assigned to me and I can take a look at it with you.
Yep. Awesome. That sounds great.
Love that we're here solving problems for everybody. Allison said she will definitely reach out to you then, Mike. So that is good. Watch for that coming in. So our next question is, we are trying to work through a depot or loaner type program. Do you have a blueprint or process flow that would help us to create this type of program, tracking and setup? I know we do have a blueprint for rental products. At least I believe we used to. So let me see if I can find that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I used to do
You guys want to speak on that with us?
So my recommendation with this would be you procure the items, you bring them in, you convert those from your inventory or non-inventory into a fixed asset. Then you create the configuration for each one of them. And as you load it out, you change that configuration to have the company and contact of that company you loaded it out to. And you open up a ticket, you set up your reminders. And that way you can see how many times you want that laptop out, how many times there's going to, how long it's been for, all those type of things. So it really be configuration. Once you're loading something, that means you own it. It's no longer ready for sale, so it needs to get out of your inventory numbers.
Yeah, configuration is how I remember doing it as well.
And it does look like that was a blueprint that we sunsetted, unfortunately. So it might have been just because it is a little more of a complicated process.
Gotcha.
Is there a way to bypass 0 items on hand when wanting to reverse receiving a piece of hardware?
I mean, there's tick box on the My Company page. It is global. It is something that you can check and uncheck to kind of get through there. I know anytime I was fixing or doing like initial inventory cleanup numbers and stuff like that with partners who were turning inventory on for the first time, a lot of times we would uncheck that, do not allow inventory to go below 0, get our counts, do all of our adjustments, get everything in place, and then potentially turn it back on. I find it to be too useful of a checkbox to leave off long term, but you can uncheck that on the My Company page in that procurement section down near the bottom in order to kind of get by that. I would, again, recommend turning it back on when you're finished, especially if that's been something that has been on. Because if you do leave that off, you can, have negative 5,000 cables at some point if you ever actually put anything back. But absolutely, there's a checkbox that forces the system to not let you below 0. You can disable that.
Good information. I think this is going to be for our product gentleman here with us. Is there any plans of allowing the sales order setting of only invoice product upon shipment to service tickets as well? We would like to put product on our service tickets, but is very manual to ensure that the products are shipped if we are potentially invoicing a service ticket today.
And when you're talking, you're on mute.
I have to circle back to that one.
We might have to circle back. It looks like we're having some technical issues there. Is there a way to adjust the date something is picked and shipped? It seems to default to today's date, which brings issue when we didn't get to enter the data in time.
It's on the roadmap. It is something that you can do today. Today, it's really just more of a check mark that it's been shipped.
Mike, I would like to just add, so that feature just got released last month. And now MSPs can go and update the pick and ship date to a previous date, because that is when that shipment might have taken place. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
So we have to create a vendor invoice to partially receive purchase orders that we can pay so that we can pay the vendor for what's received. Currently, we are changing the status of the parts received to received and closing the PO so the invoice syncs over to QuickBooks, and then reopening it to prepare for the rest of the parts. Is there a better way? And they're currently using WiseSync for this.
Well, if you receive a product and then mark the remaining items to be received later, that's going to close those individual lines, which should then be able to be picked up to be sent over to the accounting package. So, again, if I've got 5 widgets, 2 of them will receive, I go mark those 2 received. Those 2 are going to be sent over, and I can go and pay the vendor for those 2 line items.
Are we able to invoice customers partial quantities? I haven't tried it in a while, but last time I did try, I wasn't able to.
So there is a way to do it. It is definitely kind of a hack the system type of a setup. where that is the sales order item that Mike was talking about earlier. So you basically end up having the product associated to a sales order that has invoice only after the product has been shipped, set up, and you use that to partially ship the products, and then you can partially invoice that line. It's not the smoothest process necessarily, but it will allow you to partially invoice a line item like that.
And again, I think this is one that's on the roadmap so that you can go in and split them up so that you can partially invoice a line item. Because as many of you know, I might have 20 laptops that I purchased and I've installed 10 of them. I want to go ahead and invoice those 10. So that is something that is on the roadmap.
Sorry, our next question here was asking about integration that allows the distributor to put the tracking information into ConnectWise. And I was just letting Jamie know that that can be done currently through electronic ordering with CPQ. So if you're using CPQ to quote and doing electronic ordering, that will then create the PO for you in PSA, and thus when you get that tracking information, it will be updated as well as serial numbers, which makes it a lot easier getting that stuff in there. Unfortunately, it does only do the first tracking number, so if there are multiple, I think there is still kind of a issue where you'll only get one, but I think that is something that they are aware of and addressing.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I do
like we're out of questions, and it's just about perfect on timing.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead, if I can quit touching my mouse wheel here, to remind everybody to check out the virtual community. That's where we usually do our initial reminder pieces. Definitely, if anybody asks any questions there, we try and address them. The QR code here will take you directly to the virtual community here. You do get insights both from the partner success team, education is on there. The big one that I really always like to pitch on any of these is product is also on these as well. So a lot of times you can get questions to those. Is this on the roadmap? Is this something that you're looking at? Questions, because they are fairly active on these. So questions, concerns, it's just a lot of fun news and things that you can pull here from the virtual community. Also, as a reminder on this one, general housekeeping stuff, we do have this mastery series as a recurring. So, I mean, each week we come in here, we do a specific topic. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting in here and getting those questions asked for us. We also do record these and post these on the university. So if you miss any of them, you can always go back and see what questions were asked in previous sessions. But at that point, thank you everybody for coming, and I hope we got your questions answered. And with that, I think we'll call it. Everybody have a good one. Thanks for coming.
Bye, everybody.